Nothing there that catches your eye. Perhaps for a young boy, if he sees a pretty girl, okay, that is something that stands out. For a girl who's walking across one of those shops which sells wonderful dresses, something catches her eye, that dress stands out. If you are looking out for something, my dear friends, you will find it, because that something is in your mind, and when your eye sees it, it stands out. I have been discussing quite a few things with some of our guests this evening, and every meeting when I come, I make it a point to talk to some of the guests. And every time I ask somebody, they say, somebody told me to go to the Toastmasters Club. Somebody suggested that I visit the Toastmasters Club. Somebody felt that the Toastmasters Club is the best for me. And that's why I am here. I would like you to ask yourself this evening, why are you here? Is it because somebody asked you to be here? Or was it because you read something and decided to see what is happening? Or did you feel that I want to be different, I want to be better, I want to stand out, and that's why I'm in Toastmasters? These are questions that I want you to ponder upon this evening, my dear friends. Why Toastmasters? Especially for the youngsters here. Like somebody said, married people. Okay, so I have to talk about the youngsters. It gives you confidence. It helps you think. It helps you speak. It makes you gregarious. It makes you popular. It helps you speak whenever you ought to. And sometimes you raise your voice when you need to. It helps you get a lot of friends. There are a lot of people who like you, and sometimes you become somebody who is somebody else's fan. This is what Toastmasters is all about. Thanks to that visionary Dr. Ralph Smidley, who in 1924 decided to start this organization. Right now, today, there is a historic happening in our country, in Goa, when Toastmasters from the whole of South India and Sri Lanka have gathered for the annual conference. Maybe we decided not to be there, but I'm sure this evening we're going to go home with some lessons learned. Learned from the Master of Ceremonies today, learned from the message of our President, perhaps learned something from the speeches we heard, and more importantly, learned something from the feedback that we get. Feedback, they say, is breakfast for champions. And you and I have not yet reached that level of calling ourselves champions. Maybe somebody else will call you, you are my champion. Are you really looking at being that champion in your own life? Is what I thought I should share with you this evening. Today's meeting number 903 of the Bangalore Toastmasters Club, started off without our president, without our vice president education. Even if the leaders are not there, the team works, and that is what is very important. That's all to Vaidyanathan, who set the tone for the theme and for the meeting. He introduced our presiding officer, or the acting president, who came up and gave his message. Prakash, thank you very much for not only taking up the role as the presiding officer of today's meeting, you also welcomed the 8 guests who were here, and you gave us something to take back home, something that you presented about the journey of 2 different individuals, which made them stand out. Thank you very much. Your message came across very well. I thought the 11 minutes was a little bit more than what you should have used. Otherwise, for the Sergeant at Arms and our President, let's give it to them. Today's Master of Ceremonies, the hero, is Shreyans Gandhi. I have known Shreyans from the time he started with our speechcraft program. And determination is, I would say, personified in Shreyans. A man who found it difficult but did not give up. Shreyans, for the effort alone, I would like to congratulate you for taking up. Having said that, I would like to give you a few tips. I will request you kindly sit in the front so that I don't have to look back at you. A lot of empty chairs here. Okay. Having said that, I thought it's very, very nice that you prepared yourself. You had a lot of scripts, you had a lot of introduction. Your introduction of each and every member was wonderful. I felt nice when you introduced me, and I think everybody feels nice when they are introduced well. What you could do to better yourself is to have one sheet of paper for one event. Like somebody is speaking. First, name of the speaker, introduction about that speaker, title of the topic. You missed the title of the topic many times. Okay? Who is the evaluator? What are the guidelines? If you have that in place, then you will not be fumbling. Nobody will find the mistakes that you make. I think this is where you have to look into when you are preparing yourself as a master of ceremonies in the days to come. You have made a lot of difference to yourselves, and that is most important for you. I think I would give you 8 out of 10 marks for today's performance. My personal opinion, others may have other opinions, but that's what I will. We had the speech session, and Varun there gave us his Project 3 speech. He was talking about drug addiction. May I welcome Alan to give us the feedback to this.
I would request you all to complete this sentence. Say no to drugs. Today we heard an amazing speech on drug addiction. Now, why was it amazing? It was amazing because firstly, our speaker, Varun, spoke about curiosity, which actually made us curious. He had an amazing, well-defined opening, body and conclusion. He had good body language, which is not necessarily needed for this project, but he exemplified that. He had good eye contact, and his voice could be heard even at the last punch. But you know what impressed me most about today's speech was the fact that it was interactive in nature. After talking about curiosity, he asked the audience to lift their hand. So even if the people were sleeping, they got up. Or made people interested. There was a surprise element of using props. Like when he said, I like chocolates. And that for me is the making of a great speaker. Going, more than the expectation of your what is expected of your project and doing much beyond that. And the confidence. When you are confident, even the audience feels confident about you as a person. And I think as a first speaker, that confidence carried forward for all the other speeches as well. But having said that, with Varun's permission, of course, I would like to give you a few pointers. One is that when you're talking about drug addiction, I think relatability is very important. So personal examples of, it may not be your own example about people you know that were affected by drug addiction and what you learned from that. I think you could have brought forward, which would have engaged the audience much better. The project also calls for project conviction and sincerity, and I think sincerity and conviction comes from these examples. Otherwise, it's just generic statements, and that you could have worked on. And lastly, you spoke for only 4 minutes. If with a topic like drug addiction, I think there's so much that you could have given the audience in the 3 minutes remaining that you had, and your speech would have not been great. It would have been exemplary. But having said that, I think a lot of people who have not completed their CC3 can learn a lot from this speech, And yes, I will say no to drugs, but I will say a big yes and a big thumbs up to Varun, and I wish you best for all your future.
Thank you, Alan, for that exhaustive evaluation of Varun's speech. I'm touched by your speech. Thank God we don't have drug addicts here. The second speaker was Nagendra Rao, and he was talking about concentration. His evaluator is Payal Kulani. Shall we welcome her, please?
Good evening, everyone, and Nagendra Rao in particular. Yes. A quote from Zig Ziglar: if you want to reach a goal, you must see the region in your own mind before you actually arrive at your goal. Now, his general purpose was basically on concentration and the specific person, 100% concentration on whatever you do. I just want to ask the audience one question. Was this informative speech did it have an impact on all of you? Yes?
Yes.
So I think your purpose is very well achieved. There is a drastic change in you, Nagendra Rao, from your previous icebreaker speech. Though I have not attended or organized your speech, there's a drastic change, a transformation in you as a speaker. You are very confident. You have prepared your speech thoroughly, and when you delivered on stage with your gestures, your movements, it was remarkably good. Now, the OBC, the opening body and the conclusion of the speech, definitely was totally organized. The opening of the speech, you brought about an example of yourself. The bike accident you had as one experience. There was a smooth transition to the Helios flight, which was the world's craziest or the worst flight. 3, you brought about the tips about how to have better concentration. On the whole, you have met, there was a smooth transition. The bridge between the audience and the speaker, that's you, was very well connected. You spoke from your heart. You never had any notes, which is another requirement. You never portrayed any nervousness. You were totally confident, clear of the purpose and the message to be arrived or achieved to the audience. And you incorporated suggestions from the previous evaluations. Now, I would just give you 1 or 2 recommendations with your permission, which is my personal opinion. Your voice in the beginning was very clear, but towards the fag end of the speech, it became a little slower. The pace and the volume was totally low. So I felt the audience at the back would have not, clearly heard the speech. And 2, the conclusion of the speech was not with a bang. All you had to ask is, how important is concentration in today's world? You had tips for concentration, which was very good. But in the end, it should have been with a bang. And that is really needed. The opening and the conclusion should have been with a bang. But you gave your own experience with the bike accident. And what lessons do we learn from better concentration? You give your 100% shot in whatever you do. Whether it's public speaking, whether it's listening to other people's speeches, then we are arriving as better Toastmasters. But on the whole, you have attempted a you're going to go to great leaps and heights with your prepared speeches. We're looking forward for the best next speech. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Payal, for your evaluation. The lesson I learned from your speech, my dear friend, accidents don't happen, they are caused either by an unsafe act or an unsafe condition. Thank you very much for that learning this evening. And the last speaker at the prepared speech session, Joseph Das, and he was evaluated by Sapna. May we welcome Sapna, please.
Good evening, everyone, and especially the gregarious Joseph Das. So Joseph, that was yet another super awesome speech from you. I used to be employed, and I think boss bashing is close to all our hearts. So the content was very relevant to the audience. The humor was as natural as was your body language. So your body really spoke. And I I'm sure everyone here will agree when I say that I think that you spoke like a really professional public speaker. So your stage presence was awesome. I saw you running from that end of the stage to here. You came forward at important points. Your facial gestures were varied. You were smiling a lot. At the same time, you were able to show frustration. Your voice modulation was going up and down. That was also really good. You were very sincere about what you were saying, and you kept the audience very engaged. I had to really struggle to find any suggestions, but if I may, a couple. The first one was a little too much eye contact on the first couple of rows, right? And that can get a bit nervous that can make people a little bit nervous, right? So maybe a little distributed eye contact, that's one. Second, I thought your ending was a little abrupt. And that might be because you were running out of time. I think your speech was about 8.5 minutes, so a little over time. So maybe a little bit more preparation will help you stay on time and just keep your speech better, slightly better organized. But all in all, an awesome speech and very engaging, and thanks for staying back to hear this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We then had a break, a little bit of networking, a little bit of sharing, and of course, we did have some snacks. My humble request to our committee, I thought the snacks were a little bit too